Welcome. This is what you can expect. True scary stories. Tonight we delve into another eerie tale that blurs the line between reality and the unknown. If you love exploring the mysterious and the macabre, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a haunting story. Now, dim the lights, settle in, and prepare for a journey into the depths of the most haunting legends. Picture yourself arriving at a grand, historic hotel, the kind that speaks of elegance and stories long past. The Omni Shoreham Hotel in Washington, D.C. is such a place, a beacon of luxury since 1930, a favorite of presidents, celebrities, and dignitaries. But within its opulent walls lies a room with a reputation far removed from the glamour and prestige, a room known for the inexplicable, the unsettling, and the downright terrifying. This is the true account of John, a seasoned traveler who thought he'd experienced everything the road had to offer. On an autumn evening, John arrived at the Omni Shoreham, expecting a peaceful night's rest before a series of important meetings. He was delighted to learn he had been upgraded to Suite 870, one of the hotel's most luxurious rooms. Little did he know, he was stepping into a room steeped in mystery and whispering tales. Suite 870, known colloquially among staff and returning guests as the Ghost Suite, had long been a subject of intrigue. Its grandeur was undeniable: high ceilings, antique furnishings, and a view of Rock Creek Park that could take your breath away. Yet, despite its beauty, the room carried a heavy, unspoken history. John, oblivious to the suite's past, was eager to unwind. The day had been long, and he was looking forward to a good night's sleep. As he unpacked his belongings, he admired the room's decor. Everything seemed perfect, almost too perfect. He took a hot shower, changed into his pajamas, and settled into the plush, king-sized bed. The room was quiet, save for the distant hum of the city outside. As the clock ticked past midnight, the stillness began to feel oppressive. John was on the verge of sleep when a soft creaking noise disrupted the silence. It sounded like an old rocking chair, moving back and forth, but there was no chair in the room. He sat up, listening intently, but the sound ceased as suddenly as it had started. Shrugging it off as the old building settled, John lay back down, determined to ignore the odd noise. Yet, moments later, the room's temperature seemed to drop. The air grew cold, so cold that he could see his breath in the dim light of the bedside lamp. He reached for the blanket, pulling it up to his chin, puzzled by the sudden chill. Then the lamp flickered once, twice, and went out, plunging the room into darkness. John's heart raced. He fumbled for his phone, intending to use its flashlight, but the device was unresponsive. Panic began to set in. His phone had been fully charged earlier. Why wouldn't it turn on now? A soft humming broke the silence, a haunting melody that seemed to float from the corner of the room. It was the kind of tune a mother might hum to soothe a restless child, but in this context, it was anything but comforting. John's pulse quickened. He strained his eyes to see through the darkness, but the source of the sound remained elusive. Gathering his courage, John whispered, "Hello, is someone there?" His voice trembled, the question hanging in the air. There was no response, only the continuous humming, steady and eerie. As he sat frozen, a figure began to take shape at the foot of the bed, a faint ethereal glow outlining a woman. She appeared to be in her late 20s, dressed in early 20th century clothing. Her expression was sorrowful, her eyes distant, as if she were looking through John, not at him. Her presence was both unnerving and profoundly sad. John couldn't move, couldn't speak. He watched, paralyzed by fear, as the figure stood there, motionless. Then, as suddenly as she appeared, the woman began to fade, her form dissolving into the darkness, until she was gone, leaving John alone in the silent, cold room. The next morning, he was eager to leave. At the front desk, John hesitated before sharing his experience. The staff listened with a knowing look. One of them nodded and gently explained the suite's tragic past. In the 1930s, the suite was home to the Doherty family. Their maid, Juliet Brown, died unexpectedly within its walls. Following her death, the family began experiencing unexplainable phenomena. doors that wouldn't stay shut, lights flickering without cause, and the eerie sound of a rocking chair, even though none were in the room. Over time, the room earned its haunted reputation, and for decades, it was left unoccupied. Even after renovations, guests continued to report strange occurrences. John's experience was just another chapter in Suite 870's long and mysterious history. Though he left the hotel that day, he carried the memory of that night with him, a reminder that some places retain the echoes of their past. Suite 870 remains a part of the hotel's lore, a testament to the unexplainable, and for those who dare to stay, it offers more than luxury. It offers a brush with the unknown. Story 2. The Poltergeist Incident. Picture this. You've just moved into a home that seems to offer everything you've dreamed of. The paint is fresh, the floors are new, and the backyard promises peaceful evenings under a sky filled with stars. But what if I told you this house, this seemingly perfect sanctuary, is hiding something dark, something beyond explanation? Tonight, we delve into a tale that will send shivers down your spine, one that involves a family, a home, and a force that refuses to stay hidden any longer. This is the Poltergeist Incident. The Radford family had just moved into a quaint house in East London, a picturesque home that promised to be their dream sanctuary. The Victorian house, with its charming brick exterior and beautiful high-ceilinged rooms, seemed like the perfect place to start anew. Emma and Andrew Radford, along with their two young children, Lucas and Sophie, were eager to settle in and begin this new chapter of their lives. The house had been on the market for months, but nothing in their view could explain why. They saw it as a perfect fit for their needs. It was an exciting time for the family. Emma and Andrew, both excited to transform the house into a home, eagerly unpacked boxes. The children, filled with energy and curiosity, ran from room to room, claiming their space. The walls echoed with their laughter, and the air was thick with excitement. The family couldn't have been happier. But as the first week passed, something wasn't quite right. At first, it was subtle. A flicker of the lights here, a shadow moving in the corner of your vision there. The Radfords, perhaps naively, passed it off as quirks of an old house settling in. But as the days wore on, the occurrences became more and more pronounced. Emma was the first to notice. She'd go into the kitchen to prepare dinner, only to find the silverware moved around. A fork on the counter when she knew it had been put in the drawer. A cup placed precisely out of alignment with the others on the kitchen table.
And the kids?
Lucas and Sophie kept complaining about things happening in their rooms. Sophie claimed that her stuffed animals, neatly arranged every night, were found scattered across the floor in the morning. Lucas would whisper about hearing tapping on the window when no one was outside, but that was just the beginning. One night, as Andrew sat in the living room reading the newspaper, a noise came from upstairs. A heavy thud, followed by dragging. He set the paper down and stood up, walking cautiously toward the stairs. There, at the top of the staircase, he froze. The children's rooms were silent. The source of the noise couldn't be explained. He checked the rooms. Everything was in its place, but the unsettling feeling lingered. He shook it off, telling himself it was just his imagination. But was it? A few days later, the disturbances escalated. The air in the house grew unnaturally cold, with gusts of wind inexplicably blowing through the rooms, despite all windows being shut. Doors would creak open by themselves in the dead of night, a slow, deliberate swing, as though someone, or something, was making sure they knew it was there. Emma had been cleaning the house one afternoon when she experienced something chilling. She had gone upstairs to put away laundry, and upon walking into the master bedroom, she felt an overwhelming coldness in the air. The windows were shut, and the room was still. She turned to the bed, where she had just folded the blankets, but they were now on the floor. Confused, she picked them up, assuming perhaps she had overlooked them. But as she was about to make the bed again, she saw it, a shape, faint but unmistakable, a shadow in the corner of the room. It wasn't a trick of the light. No, this shadow moved, shifting, as if it were alive. Emma gasped and stumbled backward, her heart pounding in her chest. But when she looked again, the shadow was gone. That was the moment the family realized that something was very wrong. The family tried to dismiss it. After all, they had just moved in. They figured it was nothing more than the creaks and groans of a house settling, an old home with its quirks. But the events kept growing stranger, more disturbing. It wasn't long before they heard the footsteps. One night, after dinner, the family sat in the living room. They were watching a movie when they all heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps walking across the upstairs floor. But there was no one upstairs. The sound continued, slowly moving from one side of the house to the other, as if someone were pacing the rooms. Andrew, who had been trying to stay logical and calm, stood up. "I'm going to check it out," he said. He made his way to the staircase, and as he reached the top, the footsteps stopped, dead silence. But the moment he turned to walk back down, the sound started again, louder, faster. He felt a chill run down his spine. But things took a horrifying turn when Emma and Andrew decided to host a quiet family dinner one evening. They were hoping to break the tension, to return to normalcy. The children were playing in the living room, and Emma and Andrew sat at the dining table, eating. The mood was light at first, the flicker of candlelight casting a soft glow on their faces. But then, the temperature in the room suddenly plummeted. The air became heavy, cold, as though an icy presence had swept into the room. Emma shivered, glancing around the space. "It's freezing in here," she whispered. Andrew reached for his jacket, but before he could say anything, the table began to shake. At first, it was subtle, just a slight tremor beneath their plates. Then, the shaking grew violent. Plates rattled, silverware clattered against the dishes. The chandelier overhead trembled, its glass clinking together as though caught in a gust of wind. And then, a loud bang erupted from nowhere, like a deafening crack of thunder within the room. Plates flew off the table, crashing to the floor. Emma screamed, and Andrew quickly reached for the children. But the horror didn't stop there. The chairs, 6 of them, all lined up against the wall, began to move. It wasn't just a simple shift. No, these chairs were sliding across the floor, propelled by an unseen force, crashing against the walls with terrifying force. The walls seemed to vibrate with the intensity of the activity, and amidst all the chaos, the air became thick with a low guttural noise, almost like the growl of an animal in the distance. The family rushed out of the house. The front door slammed shut behind them, and they stood frozen in shock, trying to process what had just happened. They had no explanation for the events, but one thing was clear: this was not just a haunted house. Something else was at work here. Desperate for answers, the Radfords sought help from Robert L. Brown, a paranormal investigator with years of experience dealing with poltergeists. Robert and his team arrived, equipment in hand, infrared cameras, EVP recorders, motion sensors, and more. They had dealt with countless hauntings before, but this one was different. This force was active, violent even, and the history of the house suggested that there was much more beneath the surface. Robert's team spent hours gathering data, and what they discovered was enough to send chills down anyone's spine. Footage revealed objects moving on their own, silverware skittering across the floor, chairs moving with no one in sight. The EVP sessions brought a voice, low, grating, and undeniably human. The words were chilling, "Leave views." Through their research, Robert uncovered the history of the house. The Pritchard family, former owners of the home, had tragically lost their young daughter in a fire decades earlier. The fire, which had ravaged the upper floor, took the life of the girl, and the house was never the same after that. It was believed that the daughter's spirit never left, her anger and sorrow giving rise to the violent poltergeist activity. As Robert and his team conducted a cleansing ceremony, the oppressive energy in the house seemed to lift. The temperature rose, the shaking ceased, and the air felt lighter. For a moment, it seemed as if peace had returned to the Radford home. But the question remained, was it really over? Or had the poltergeist merely retreated, waiting for the next family to come and disturb the quiet once more? The Radfords left the house soon after, the haunting memories of the violent attack lingering long after they moved out. As for the house, its tragic history remains, with whispers of the restless spirit of a young girl still lingering in the shadows of the Victorian walls. What about you? Would you dare to live in a house where someone was never truly gone?